been buzzing around mainstream media, been buzzing around everywhere. It's critical race theory, and I know when people hear that, or people who are ignorant about the topic and they have not studied critical race theory, or they're just bad fake actors, they get like this, I don't know, this spell on them. So we're going to be talking about how this relates to Liberia, because there are some interconnections between, the overall conceptions of critical race theory and the founding of Liberia, and Liberia being the nation state. So I'm going to give 30 seconds for people to come in. I'm going to be explaining how critical race theory and Liberia connect. And if anybody wants to chime in, come into the chat. You are more than welcome to come onto this live stream. I just want to briefly overall explain what critical race theory is and how it connects to Liberia, and then we can sort of have an open session. So I'm just going to give 30 seconds for people to come in. All right, fam, it's approaching past those the 30 seconds. So I'm going to get into today's topic, which is CRT and how it relates to Liberia. Now, when we talk about CRT, which is critical race theory is really an academic and legal framework. So unless you're in law or you're in academia, you don't really critical race theory is not taught. People thinking, oh, it's going to be taught in schools. It's going to be taught in, elementary school, middle and high school. I'm like, no, that's stuff that you get into college, or you're in law school. But the basic premise of critical race theory is basically a legal framework that deals with how U.S. law and racial power are interconnected. And so this basically, in simple terms, deals with how racism is ingrained in U.S. law and U.S. frameworks. And this includes from like mandatory sentencing. It includes zoning laws. It included, voters voting laws. It included, colleges and education. That's really what critical race theory goes in depth with about. So banking discrimination is another example. When I bring up the zoning laws, I'm talking about housing, FHA loans. We're talking about that stuff when we talk about critical race theory. I know that mainstream media or people who are ignorant are talking about basically, critical race theory is saying that, oh, America is fundamentally racist. And I gotta share my screen. Let me share my screen real quick because I gotta show this stupidity right here. So what I just brought you earlier was critical race theory. And peace, everybody in the chat. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you sign up to the website at bilafghanistan.org/register. We really need you there, and there is a place for you at this organization. So to continue on about the critical race theory, I just found this whole image to be completely and utterly laughable. I just find this completely, utterly laughable. So you see right here when we talk about critical race theory, you see this right here. They said this is, like I said, what started in the 1970s, became more organized in the 1980s and 1990s. Contends that there is a strong bond between law and racial power. Then this person says critical race theory studies racism as a social construct, impact on education, housing, and justice system. Like I said before, with the zoning, FHA loans, mandatory menacing, education laws, busing, and all that stuff, school segregation. Proponents say learning the history of racism is crucial to addressing inequities. Critics say that theory teaches that the U.S. is fundamentally racist. My part is yes, the U.S. is fundamentally racist. And we know this because Liberia is a shining example of U.S. being fundamentally racist. I'm just going to bring up one example, and this is going to lead into the next. So, I want y'all to listen to this. It's the Mississippi State Colonization Society. And the Mississippi State Colonization Society was what created Mississippi in Africa. And for people who don't know what Mississippi in Africa is, that's where modern day Sinoe County is. So if we're talking about in Liberia, Sinoe County is the third largest county in Liberia. It's the second least populous county in Liberia. But I just want to show people what Sinoe County is. So this is Sinoe County, and there are not a lot of people in. I know there'll be more people in when they come in. When they come in. But let me share my screen real quick. What up, underrated mind? How's everybody doing? Let me share my screen again. I did not share my screen again. So this is Sinoe County. It's third largest county in Liberia, second densely populated. This is where Mississippi in Africa started. And I'm about to read some excerpts. So here's some of the that's just dealing with COVID cases within the county, but this is Sinoe County, what I'm referring to when we talk about the Mississippi State Colonization Society. So now let me get into the Mississippi State Colonization Society and how this is just one example that proves that critical race theory in America being a fundamentally racist country. Is from Mississippi Encyclopedia. So I'm going to share it on the screen, and you can follow along with me. Critical race theory is a big duh that furthers the policy effort pacify Black people by way of speech. Let's have a discussion about race, all while the beatdown continues. It also feels the complaining machine. I mean, that's really what I said. It's just literally a legal framework. It's what systemic racism is, but it's just in a theory that just proves the point. But let me show how that critical race theory talks about collaborates with nationhood and with Liberia. So let me show you, to all the people who say, I know, we know, the BIL we know, but for the people who don't know about this, I'm gonna read the here it is. It's the Mississippi State Colonization Society, and this is what founded Sinoe County in Liberia, and it was started in Mississippi in Africa. So I'm about to read to you and just tell me if this is just you ain't fundamentally racist. During the Revolutionary era, Thomas Jefferson and other proponent whites supported the establishment of a colony of free Blacks in West Africa. The American Colonization Society was formed in 1816 in Washington, D.C. Many Northern whites and some white Southerners supported colonization as a means to rid society of a large free Black population. So that's just the beginning part of it. But that just proves the point right there. If you weren't fundamentally racist, you wouldn't be trying to rid the Black population. Now, I know they say free Black population and also to a certain degree trying to entrench slavery, but the reality of it is you wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't be trying to rid the Black population if you say this country was not fundamentally racist. It was equally it was for liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness, and under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You wouldn't be doing this. Your own founders are admitting this. Let me go even further. Let me find this thing from Monticello. Let me find this. Let me see if I can type it in. Also while we're at it. Thomas Jefferson, right here. So here it is. Thomas Jefferson's attitudes towards slavery. I'm about to read this, and then I'm going to go further into the Mississippi Colonization Society and how critical race theory, connects with Liberia. Thomas Jefferson wrote all the men created equal and yet enslaved more than 600 people over the course of his life. Although he made some legislative attempts against slavery and at times bemoaned its existence, he also profited directly from the institution of slavery and wrote that he suspected black people to be inferior to white people in his notes on the state of Virginia. Throughout his entire life, Thomas Jefferson was publicly a consistent opponent of slavery, calling it moral depravity and a hideous blot. He believed that slavery presented the greatest threat to the survival of the new American nation. Jefferson also thought that slavery was contrary to the laws of nature, which decreed that everyone had a right to personal liberty. Though these views were radical and a view where unfree labor was the norm, and at the time, American Revolution, Jefferson was actively involved in legislation that he hoped would result in slavery's abolition. In 1778, he drafted a Virginia law that prohibited the importation of enslaved Africans. In 1784, he proposed an ordinance that would ban slavery in the Northwest Territories. But Jefferson always maintained that the decision to emancipate slaves would have to be part of a democratic process. Abolition would be stymied until slave owners consented to free their human property together in a large scale of emancipation. So, that in and of that self, the fact that you have to get consent, y'all, consent from your slave master to let all the slaves go. The slave masters, we got to come together and decide whether or not we want to free black folks. Doesn't that sound like something familiar? Doesn't that sound like, oh, we need your sacrifice. We need you to willingly, from the goodness of your heart, please free these slaves. It is a moral wrong. And you need to free your slaves because it's the right thing to do. We need you to give up this system of white supremacy that benefits you because it's morally wrong. BIO family, if that was the case, they would have done it even before America came into existence. So they did it because they didn't care. Because, once again, they're fundamentally racist. To say otherwise, we're not sugarcoating anything. We're not here to make jokes. We're not here for none of that. But Emoji, I'm gonna let you chime in. But to say otherwise, I don't want to hear any more of these conversations. But let me continue on, and then I'm going to get to let Emoji speak, because Emoji is gonna say something after I finish read this. But Jefferson always maintained. Okay, I got that. To Jefferson, it was anti-democratic and contrary to the principles of the American Revolution for the federal government to enact an abolition or for only a few planters to free their slaves. Although Jefferson continued to advocate abolition, the reality was that slavery was becoming more entrenched. The slave population in Virginia skyrocketed from 292,627 in 1790 to 469,757 in 1830. Jefferson had assumed that the abolition of the slave trade would weaken slavery and hasten its end. Instead, slavery became more widespread and profitable. In an attempt to erode Virginia's support for slavery, he discouraged the cultivation of crops heavily dependent on slave labor, specifically tobacco, and encouraged introduction of crops that needed little or no slave labor: wheat, sugar, maples, short grain rice, olive trees, and wine grapes. But by the 1800s, Virginia's most valuable commodity export was neither crops nor land, but slaves. Okay. But I want y'all to, I'm about to get to this point right here. Jefferson believed in the necessity of ending slavery, never changed. From the mid-1770s until his death, he advocated the same plan of gradual emancipation. Jefferson's belief in the necessity of abolition was intertwined with his racial beliefs. I want y'all to listen to this. I got to highlight this. I got to highlight this so y'all understand what we talking about. Right here. I got to highlight this. Okay. He thought, listen up, fam. He thought that white Americans and enslaved blacks constituted two separate nations who could not live together peacefully in the same country. Jefferson's beliefs that blacks were racially inferior and as incapable as children, coupled with slaves' presumed resentment of their former owners, made their removal from the United States an integral part of Jefferson's emancipation scheme. I'll let you speak, Umoja, on critical race theory, Liberia, what I've just read. I'll let you speak on that.
Good morning. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you at, everybody. It's good to be on here. Jabari, thanks for the knowledge as usual. Killing it. So I have something to say about critical race theory, and it's interesting about the last paragraph, the last couple lines that you read, put us in the same boat that you would put children, and it's like that's how they continue to plot and treat us as a people, as a quote unquote nation of people here in America. And the sick part is that we continue to act like children. And when it comes to this critical race theory stuff, it's something similar. And what I see is that critical race theory, like I said earlier, is basically just a breaking down of the beatdown of the black race in America. And on one hand, you have black people saying, no, this should be taught in our schools. If we could teach this in our school, like literally arguing about having the mistreatment of your people taught in schools so everybody learns about it and knows about it, or or at least are forced to acknowledge that they know about it. And then white folks is like, no, we don't want this to be because it's shaming and everything else. But see, they're the smart ones here because white folks are scared that black people will actually care and actually want to do something about it. They don't care about the fact that they did it. They don't feel shameful. They don't feel bad. They don't all that is BS. Trust me, that's BS because what white folks know is that strong people when they hear about their mistreatment, they get a never again attitude, and not the never again attitude where you just wearing a t-shirt say I'm not my ancestors. You can catch these hands, like that's cute and that sounds cool, but that hasn't been the case, right? And what I'm saying is like I can't remember the school or the state exactly, but I know the Jews they like have rites of passage where they teach their kids all of the stuff that happened in a Holocaust, but they teach it from a basis of this will never happen again. You understand? I'm fairly confident that the Chinese people, when they raising they kids and when they do their separate schools, because they do like a separate school and two, like once a week they'll go to a Chinese school, learn their language, learn about their culture, like outside of going to American schools. I'm pretty sure they teach about when they was in the China when they was in the Chinese camps working on the railroads in America, and I'm pretty sure that they saying this won't happen again. I'm fairly confident that the Japanese have something similar because you know the Japanese they like actually bombed America in 1941 Pearl Harbor. I'm pretty sure they teach their kids about Hiroshima when the nuclear bomb was sent, and I'm pretty sure that they say this will never happen again, and this is why we don't can control business around the world, right? But when it comes to black folks, it's very, very sad. It's very sad and sick that we know about all of the history that never stopped, though, right? The abuse that never stopped. We know all about this, but we don't have this will never happen again attitude. We don't come with this attitude of like this why we need to have our own stuff so that something like this, so that this screw never happen again. So this will stop happening now. We don't have that attitude. We seem to have a crazy and sick attitude that says, well, we just got to keep on bringing this stuff to the forefront. We got to keep on having these discussions, and one day white people are going to change. That's the attitude that we have, and that's why we continue to be treated like children. That's why we continue worldwide to look like fools. You know how like we'll care about how we look when we go to church. We'll care about how we look when we go our first day of school. We'll care about how we look going to the damn gym personally, but we do not think about how we look as a race of people worldwide. I'm talking about in the universe. We look ridiculous. We continue to catch beatdowns and we just want to talk about it. So when I hear critical race theory, I'm like, it's useless. It's pointless. Who cares? Especially if you know. If you know, then you know. But we don't have this knowing. We don't even want to talk to our kids about what the KKK is. You know, we don't want to talk about that. We want to tell our kids to just work hard and do good, and you can be a great American too, as opposed to screw these people. These people don't like you. That's what like the stone cold hard truth. We do not want to talk about the truth. We want to sit up here in this fantasy land like everything will be okay if I just get a job, if I just get educated, if I just stay out the way, keep my head down. That is a straight punk reality. Period. When you know you a punk, you know you getting punked, and you just trying to be a good punk. You trying to be one of the punks that don't get bullied so much because you useful to the bullies. And that's how we are as a race of people. No matter what we want to say, I know we want to act like we tough. I know we want to act like we hard, and I know we want to act like we ain't our ancestors. Here to tell you, yes, we are. We are worse than our ancestors because we know what we're going through, and we have what the ancestors didn't have. We have resources, we have money, we do have education, we do have skills, and we still here catching the beat down, and then we'll have the nerves to cry about them not wanting to talk about the beat down in public schools. That's our job. We should be having community schools once a week teaching our own critical race theory and talking about this is why I'm having you going to school to be a carpenter son. This is why you're going to be a doctor, daughter. This is why you're going to be whatever else skill that's going to use so we can build our own place, even if it was to do it right here. But Negroes is so sick that they really don't want to do nothing right here but be successful as individuals instead of doing something as an actual nation. So it just irritates me. I'm really trying to be kind, kind and gentle about this, but this is one of the topics that irritates me because we want to continue to talk about how we getting the beat down, and it's never ends with this is why we need to get away from these people. This is why we need to create our own systems. It's like we just get off. Literally, it's like we get off, like we get sexually aroused by talking about this stuff.
Oh
It's like a
shit.
guitar. I'm serious though. I'm so serious though. I really feel
I
like there's an
mean,
arousal with
I
just talking
think
about this stuff. Like when we gonna do it?
I don't think it's the sexual, but I think it's just this obsession of trying to be validated by somebody who knowingly beats you. You know, when you were talking about, the Chinese, right? I got a couple of articles actually up, right? So there are some you can just type in Chinese century of humiliation, never again. And the diplomat said China's never again mentality. Um,
Exactly.
the China said the narrative has created a never again mentality in China, which dictates that the century of humiliation is not just a grim legend of the past, but a warning. And he says Western analysts often overlook how much China's modern day policy is driven by the collective trauma of its colonial past. Understanding the factors behind China's grand strategy often proves a daunting and elusive task for Western analysts studying the emerging Asian superpower. An often overlooked, I'm reading this from the diplomat, but an often overlooked aspect of Beijing's collective mentality is that China is the first power to challenge the United States that truly rose from its post colonial past. While analysts often cite that the century of humiliation as a driving force in Beijing's policies, they too often ignore exactly how this collective trauma manifests itself in China's never again mentality. This mentality can't be overlooked when attempting to challenge China, whether it be a territorial dispute or in trade. While fears of again falling prey to foreign powers plays a significant role in Beijing's policies, many Western analysts overlook this important aspect as it's foreign and as it is foreign to American and Western Europeans' mindsets. That I had to read that because that's what you're talking about. And China makes sure after we were invaded by Japan, what happened in Nanking with the Japanese, the Nanking massacre, when foreign companies, when the British did the Opium Wars, when they sieged Hong Kong, when Japan seized Taiwan, you know, many Chinese people had a this will never happen again. And it's gotten to the point because they have ingrained that they're in their society, that they no longer need to have the century of humiliation narrative because, like the this South China Morning Post said, China has seen too many triumphs in the last century for it to stress its past to front. See, you winning so much that you ain't even need to talk about your past. You winning so much, but we ain't winning
Exactly.
anything.
Exactly. And then what? Now, mind you, these are some little 110-pound men who stomp in the business world, who dominating, who going to Africa, sitting up there marrying women to become chiefs, who's going to Africa and giving out loans and building industries and having Chinese people working them. See, this is what people who actually care, who actually have some sense of racial pride. And that's why when I say stuff like we just don't care or we don't have any racial pride, it may sound crazy because we see all the RBG flags, we see all the black power fists. See, we see these things, right? We see these things in spirit, but in actuality, when it comes to the behavior behind it, we don't see it, y'all. And we have to get really serious about this. And I don't understand what it's going to take to get serious about it. You know, I have a thing that I like to say. You cannot make people give a fuck. And that's as simple as I could put it. You cannot make people really actually care to the point that you want to do something. Because everybody, like I said, everybody get all aroused and get all uppity and all pumped up. You'll see their chest blow up when they talk about this stuff. And you would think, man, we can conquer the world. And then when it's like, okay, let's just have a meeting. Let's just have a meeting to see where everybody gonna go. 3 people show up. We just want to talk about this stuff.
We used to be kings and queens.
Exactly. Exactly. All true.
I'm so
all things
past,
that are true.
I'm so past.
All
I'm
things
so
that are
past
true.
that. I don't like hearing that we was. I don't care about that. Listen, that was 2,000-3,000 years ago. Okay, it's 2021. We got climate change going on. We got a famine that's about to go on in Madagascar. I don't care about we was kings in the past. There's something Drew Holiday of the Milwaukee Bucks, right? Side note, right? So I know the RBG gonna be mad because he's got a white wife and his white wife plays soccer, right? But guess what? He and his wife do? They have a foundation where they're giving loans to black businesses. And see, black businesses have been over like multiple states. Black owned businesses have been given money. So y'all can get mad at Drew Holiday for his white wife, or you can get mad at Byron Allen or whoever. But here's the end of the day: they're bringing money. I don't care about this. Right, man, I'm pro black, blackity black, black, black. Show me your pro blackness by helping other black people. I don't care about this waving the RBG flag and all of this, speaking this language and all that stuff. Yeah, that's great cultural pride. But what about economically? Are you putting stuff in black people's pockets? Period.
Black power has to become practical. We can't just say it. We can't just say it and say let's meet and learn about and learn about the Nile in Egypt, and then how these people has mistreated us. Okay, what are we gonna do moving forward? It has to be about moving forward. It has to be. It cannot be keep on talking about history, how we got beat down, how we continue to get beat down. Now, if this was a black person, it would have went like that. I bet if they was white, it would have been like that. Okay, and what? What are we gonna do about it? It has to come to what you're gonna do about it because we look like fools. And I actually care about how we look as a culture of
Yeah,
people.
I'm about to say it's
Personally.
This is why, like it was like what we were talking about on the a little bit for the brief Discord that we had early last night. But it's just like that's what people don't understand. Like we're thinking about actually practical how you get stuff in order. We're not on this fictitious imaginary. People got to understand. You got to separate idealism from reality. And as I've learned that to accept reality, I'm able to move much farther because I understand, listen, ideally you would want this, but we don't live in an ideal world. Nothing is ideal. So you got to think reality based, okay? Listen, we get 4,000 years ago, we was doing this and all this stuff. The world has changed for 4,000 years ago, okay? We're in a global economy. People are marrying one another from different countries and different cultures. Okay, it is what it is. We have to adapt to the situation, like Halib said. We can't keep talking about the past. Listen, you learn about the past for two reasons. You learn about the past to understand what happened so that you can adjust to the future, not to harp on or to feel some self pride. I don't need to talk about history to build up some self pride. I got self pride in myself with my blackness in and of itself. I don't need a Kings and Queen book to tell me that I'm valuable. You need to. Are you not instilling in this in your children and in your community by yourself? I don't need a book. Like, I do this stuff on my own because what? I value myself regardless. And this goes on to Liberia, about with the critical race theory and how this, comes together. Y'all got all this smoke about, see, we can't go back to Africa because what happened in Liberia. If you know that Liberia was founded by your ancestors, why haven't you taken the time to actually, what actually happened? What was the situation going on when they first arrived here? No, you don't do that. You immediately start bashing your own country that your ancestors founded. That you got presidents, vice presidents, a sergeant at arms, you had generals, all of this stuff, and you go and you bash that country. Mind you, you never stepped foot there, and you don't even know the full history of it. I find it weird when we can bring it back to another nation, China, right? Chinese people came to America. Chinese students, they came to America because they thought, they could get, this dream, live the American dream and stuff like that, right? And I read an article yesterday that when Chinese students were exposed to racism, originally they were critical of Beijing. The more racism that they were exposed to, the more pro-Beijing they became. Because reality steps in and it says, wait a minute, this country is not what I thought it was. Maybe I need to go back home. Maybe it's better if I go back home to China and maybe, my career there, because I thought, I was going to escape racism, or I thought I was going to escape this brutality of the Beijing system. It turns out the American system's got its own just as terrible flaws. Like, come on. Like, we got to be real about this. And that's just not what we're doing. The fact that Chinese students who have not been here longer than we have, right? They understand that when they are subject to U.S. racism, they become more pro-Beijing. And she said this. One of the girls said, she says, America and China both have their faults, but China is my homeland, and I'm willing to put up more with it.
Let me tell you a story. I was trying to tell it on the Discord last night, but I just, as you was talking, I just remember what countries and cities that it was. So a sister was in one of these like expat groups, and she was like, so I'm in Spain and I'm trying to figure out, I'm working on my expat and I'm my black sit, and I'm trying to figure out which place do I want to go. I visited Rome, Florence, and it was another one. It was another Spaniard place. She said Rome, Florence, and something else. And in one of the comments, it was like, I would take Florence because Rome it's less racist than Rome. And I just if I could have just went through the comment section with my whole body and just like, I don't know what I would have did, but I'm like, this is the mind of us though. We don't even consider, a lot of us don't even consider Africa. She really said it's less racist. I will go to a whole nother place that's still Europeanized just to get away from America, but I'm going to still sign up for more races.
This
just insanity.
That the fact that she chose Italy shows me the complete, she says her black seed. That just shows me just how uninformed. I have no plan of going to Italy, but I know the situation that's going on in Italy. Do you not know in Italy in general? Have you heard of a person by the name of Matteo Salvini? He is a far-right Italian nationalist in Italy. And ever since he's arose to power, Black people have been killed. Black people have been stabbed. In the streets. There's been increasing xenophobia. His party is kingmaker in the country. He stopped European immigrants African immigrants from arriving in Italy. So you're going to a country where Matteo Salvini, who is literally the Donald Trump of Italy, if we want to be real, the far right of Italy, and you are going to go there. And I have no desire to go to Italy. And I know this shows me that most of us do not research the situation that is going on at hand. You're saying you're going to Florence because it's less racist. Italy, the country, is literally being ran by far right. Everywhere you go, there's xenophobia. There is umoja. There is xenophobia against Sicilians and Sardinians.
I know it. I know it.
Italians.
I just shake my head, and then I can't say nothing. I can't say anything to people. You can't say anything to them. You can't say why not Africa.
It's
you
like
can't do it.
Why? Like I said, that Chinese student, what she said hit me hard. She said, yes, the Beijing and American systems have their own flaws, but China is my homeland, and I'm willing to tolerate more.
And it's funny because that's exactly
what. Go ahead.
It's really interesting because that is exactly how I feel about Africa. That is exactly how I feel. I would legit downgrade everything. I would say second world. I wouldn't mind living on a now that's not the intent. The intent is to build, but I would literally rather live in a second like a second world reality, not third world. I ain't going that deep, but I'd rather live in a second world reality where I don't have, let's say a skate park, you know what I'm saying, or like easy access to vehicles, like or Burger Kings and stuff like that, like some of the dumb stuff that people reject Africa for, than to sit here. My thing is that I'm not dying in America. I mean, seriously, man. And that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing at all. Period. So yeah, I feel that Chinese students' sentiments to the T.
Come on, Emoji, live the third world, man.
But yeah, man. Too many of us though. You even mentioned Africa. And it's like, well, do they have internet? Well, what was the one somebody had said something that was crazy. It was something crazy for a reason not to go. I just don't get it.
I mean, see y'all, fam. This is the problem when you don't have boots on the ground / a social network. Hence, when you don't have the BIO. If you were part of the BIO, we could tell you what's going on because we got boots on the ground. We could tell you how this country really works. We can tell you the ins and outs. You listen, media propaganda can give you so much, but you actually got to be in the country. Okay? You got to be in the country. You can't just, because notice this, right? They'll talk propaganda, right, about China and Russia and all that, right? But the minute you come and we tell our reality, they'll say, oh, you hate America. No, we're telling the reality of the situation. We live here. Don't tell me what you're, just because you live in your little bubble, that what I live is your world. This is what conservatives do all the time. They will try to tell you what your lived experience is and act like they know, like they're the expert. You don't know nothing. You don't live in my shoes. How are you going to tell me that this country ain't racist and I've been through racism in and day out? You ain't gonna gaslight me. You ain't gonna manipulate me. Shut up. Be quiet. It's the same thing with these people who disrespect Liberia and disrespect Africa. Have you been to Liberia? I mean, do you have any expat groups there? Is there an African American Association there? If it's not there, then be quiet. Because guess what? If you went as a group, like Holliff said, instead of the solo, it'd be a much smooth transition. because you'll have people who are there that you can now get plugged in. I don't have to go by myself on this solo and then got to try to navigate myself and hope nothing goes wrong.
You see how that's been working out.
Yeah, but I'll let underrated mind and hollow talk because I know me and Umoja have been doing the bulk talking, but I'll let y'all. I want y'all to chime in.
I'm just listening. This is pretty good. You guys cooking.
Well, you know what I got to say? It's like, first of all, the whole critical race theory is just another militant integration as Black Power American stalling tactic. It's just a way. It's like, let's look at it. What is the end game of critical race theory? It's like we want to look at everything in America from a race lens. So if you teach history, you got to incorporate critical race theory into the history that you're teaching today. Why exactly? So you can teach white. Why would the conqueror want to teach things from the perspective of the conquered? That makes absolutely no sense. The conqueror is going to teach from their perspective. And if you got a problem with that, get your own shit. This is what I'm saying. It's like it's hard for us to have these conversations because these people that are detractors and the people that push back against us are children. They're literally mental toddlers. They have no clue about reality. That's the reason why we're having these stupid discussions about critical race theory. You're trying to talk. You're trying to get the white man to have an aha moment. That's what you're trying. That's your goal. Oh shit! Oh man, you mean that's what we did to y'all?
Hollow.
Oh man, I didn't know. Thank you, Black people. Thank you for keeping pushing this and letting us know. I had no idea that I was oppressing you. I had no idea. Wow, now that I know that this is a racist society, now what? See, it's never that now what? You notice that? It's never that. That's why when we start talking about end game, they don't even know what end game is.
Yeah. And speaking of end game, I just want to talk about I want to read some of Love and Nigel's point, and then I want to get to your end game point. Jabari is telling the truth. Until you're here on the continent, you won't know everything that's actually happening on the ground. Get here. Like, they don't even watch news. Like, I watch channels television in Nigeria. I watch SABC in South Africa. That's how I knew about the Lindani Miani situation. I watch ITV Liberia, Liberian TV. Like, you gotta watch media that's in that country. You can't just watch MSNBC and CNN and then think that you're getting news from Russia. Like, you actually have to watch what their country's actually talking about. We on The World is One, right? And news, right? And they have anti-US sentiments, right? But I mean anti-China sentiments, right? They always bad. They always attack China for the most part. We on, but they also go at the U.S. Why? We on is Indian based. It's from the perspective of India. India is going to give its perspective. So if you want to know how Indians feel, why don't you watch Indian-based news? We on, like I said, for example, China, CGTN. You watch the news that's based in that country. That's one thing. Secondly, when you talk about the end game, I brought this up in the chat. The militant Black Power, the militant integration is Black Power American. The synopsis is the war in Afghanistan. What did the U.S. accomplish in Afghanistan?
Is that a rhetorical question?
No, yeah. Nothing. How long have they been there?
What's it been, like
2 decades?
Yeah, over 20 years.
And you got nothing done. So what the U.S. said, we got to leave. It's up to the Afghans on what government they want. Geez, that kind of sounds like what we're advocating for. You militant integrationists, you don't have an end game. You're not telling us the time frame this is going to occur. You just say keep fighting. Fighting for what? What are we winning? What are we gaining? At some point, you got to say, listen, we ain't getting nowhere. We tried all we can. We got to leave. It's up to America if they want to change that. That's not our job. I'm going to leave and go back to my homeland that my ancestors built. Like, we got to stop with this trying to make people, if we can understand that logic, Holland, of the people of Afghanistan, the people of this country need to fight for their government. The people of Haiti have to fight for their government. Then how come we, as Black Americans, as a nation, because you have a lot of Black Americans that say we are our own nation, although they have this nation with a nation thing, but they still understand the concept of a separate identity, then say, listen, white Americans they got to do that themselves. That's not our responsibility. That's not our job. We will be over in Monrovia, Maryland County, Harper. We'll be in Buchanan. We'll be in Robertsport, sitting down on the beach, drinking tropical smoothies. That's what we're gonna be doing. Let us know when you get your act together. Let us know. But until then, we gonna be doing our own thing. Like I don't have time for it. Like, we just don't got time for it. And like I said, that's not us being defeated. That's accepting reality.
Oh no. Being defeatist is fighting to have critical race theory taught in schools. Being defeatist is still waiting on white people to change their minds instead of us changing our behavior. Being defeatist is still telling people 60, 70 years later, you have to vote. If you don't vote, then you can't say anything. Being defeatist is seeing your moms, your daughters, your sons, your dads killed, mistreated, seeing them go through injustice rapidly and very often, and still saying, but we still have to stay here and fight because we built this. Being defeatist is saying that you built something when you was forced to build it, and when you built something and watching somebody else ball out in it. That's being a defeatist. Instead of saying, you know what, well shit, if I did this, I'm sure I could do my own too. That's being a defeatist. Not saying, you know what, I'm tired of sitting up here watching my people being mistreated and getting whooped on. I'm gonna go where I actually have a home around my own people. Why am I going to stay here complaining about these people when I really don't want to do nothing but kiss their ass and be close to them as possible? That's being a defeatist. Let's be very clear on that.
Let me address Five Guy 535. Five Guy 535. I gotta say this. I just love your avatar. Your avatar is just golden. I love it. Reminds me of Mario Kart when I was playing younger. I just love that avatar.
Jabbar, you fired. I'm just messing with you, bro. Go ahead. It is a cool avatar.
Avatar is just great. I just love it.
It is a cool avatar.
I just love it. I've always wanted to say that. I just love the avatar. Speaking of Haiti, what do you guys have to say about the president situation? What do you think will become of Haiti and its people? My thing about it is the leaders' causes in this case. The people said we do know the situation that there was an American who was responsible for the assassination. So you can make your own speculation on that. He was arrested. But my thing about the Jovenel Moïse situation was he knew his term was up and he said, no, I have an extra year. The people are saying, no, you don't. Your time is up. And instead of saying, you know what, my time is up, the people say my time is up, let me resign, or let's have a thing. Remember, he postponed the election. Remember that. He rejected the election. He did not go through this election. So you have a situation where a man doesn't want to do with elections. He then says, oh well, I have an extra year. So I don't have to do this. I don't have to do this. Then the people rise up and say, no, you're going. You're leaving. And Jovenel Moïse starts clamping down on dissent. Gangs are killing innocent civilians. People are getting killed in the streets. And then this happens. And I'm just like, sorry, but you caused it. We keep telling, how many times do we have to keep saying this about stability? When it's your time to go, it's your time to go. When the people say your time is up, your time is up. It's the same thing what's going on a little bit in Ethiopia, although I'm not a quintessential expert in it. But the situation with the elections, with Ethiopia postponing the elections and last year due to coronavirus, and the TPLF saying, listen, you know, we still are supposed to have elections and we're going to go on and have the elections. Well, no, we're not going to have the elections. Just let them have the elections. If they win, they win. But they're not going to be the majority of the seats. You don't have to go through this whole craziness with the situation that was going on in Tigray. But that's what we're talking about. Unnecessary, greedy, power-driven people, kleptocrats, that end up destroying the country. So that's what I got to say with Haiti. I think, and when you got the Haitian leader requesting U.S. troops, that to me is the ultimate. You failed as a people. You have to request outsider. Remember, Haiti was occupied by the U.S. from 1915 to 1934 for nearly 20 years. And you're going to bring in the same group of people that occupied your country for 20 years, gave you Papa Doc and his son. But that's all I got to say on that issue.
When your time is up, when your time is up, the time is up.
Children, children.
People got to suffer because you don't want to give up power. Get out of here.
Yeah, I just look at stuff like this. As like lessons for us for what we need to do. Like that's another part about critical race theory and world history, is like we have enough knowledge and we have enough examples of what to do and what not to do to actually run something that is so dope. Like from anything to like what kind of entertainment we want to how we want our elections to go. We have enough history to run a nation 10 times over, man. And this is just another lesson, like having stability, having it clear cut. And first and foremost is not having corrupt ass people in office, not having the office run to where it can be so easily corrupted. That's first and foremost. And what's funny is I remember having to talk about this. I can't remember how many months ago. Like this is stuff that we like actually talk about, all the time. Talk about how we gonna run stuff and do stuff and governmental issues and I love what Nigel said. I don't even think that it was put up, but she had said earlier that we still arguing at the dominoes table while people are trying to take over the continent and even outer space now. While we still sitting up here talking about, man, that was you didn't have no 7 and blah 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 blah. No, that ain't 15, and we still sitting up here arguing, man, in analog while everybody else is wireless, man. It's really crazy. It's really crazy.
Like I said, children.
Real
Everybody
talk.
else is doing MMA. We in there slap boxing.
And thinking we cold though. Cold. Ooh.
Tagged them.
In the meantime, you're getting your shit all twisted up and broken.
Connor,
what about critical nationhood theory?
Talk about it.
We need to have critical nationhood theory, which challenges fuck white supremacy. We're challenging black intelligentsia, black talking heads, black media, black whoever the black think tank is currently, challenging their strategies and tactics in relation to white supremacy and racism. How about that?
Let me interject there really quick in case people don't know who those people are. I'll give you the number one example. The black people in media and in social media as well, who's making you believe that critical race theory in schools is important. Literally. If you sitting up here, if you're listening to this and in your mind, you still thinking, man, but it is important. It is important that they know those people, because that should not be our thought process. Our thought process should be, how can we get somewhere where we don't have to fucking talk about no damn critical
Hold
race
on.
theory?
Hold on.
That
We
should
done
be
missed the
the goal.
we don't miss the whole thing. Like y'all making it more hard than what it is, y'all. You said I would love critical nation theory. No, we already know what the term of critical nation theory is. It's called black nationalism. Period. Black nationalism is critical nationhood theory. We don't even need to say that. Like, come on, like it's just like that's the whole point of black nationalism. Black nationalism was, listen, we're dealing with racism. We're dealing with white supremacy. It's not going to end. Why not just have our own nation, preferably in Africa? Like,
You're being too logical.
like, like, my thing is, like, you have people who say they're black nationalists. Like I said, black nationalism, black separatism. There's a book on that. That's where I got it from. It's Black Separatism, the Social Reality. But they were talking about how black nationalism from its inception, the idea was preferably returning to Mother Africa. So it wasn't until, like I said, the 1960s that this whole do it right here, black separatism became the dominant theory. Prior to 1960s, the dominant theory of black nationalism and black separatism was returning back to the continent of Africa. This is why we have to make the distinction between classical black nationalism and modern black nationalism. And I had to do that when I was talking about Liberia, and that goes into what we said critical nation theory with black nationalism. That's what Liberia relates to. That was the purpose of Liberia. The purpose of Liberia was, listen, we don't want you free black people here. Some black people, listen, we're never going to get equality here. We're going to deal with racism. Why not go back to Africa and form treaties with, ethnic groups and see if we can build a society of our own? That's literally the purpose of Liberia. That's the reason why Liberia was created.
And it's not hard, man. It's not hard. That's why when I hear things like racial pride and cultural pride and all that, I just call BS, man, because that's not the truth. Again, we have all the examples that we need. That we have everything that we need. We'll talk about stuff like black businesses and support our bit and all this other stuff, but the focus is never on actually building systems of our own. It's like, yep, let's do a support black business challenge, and this weekend we're gonna all support a black business. No, none of the money is going to a collective pot to take care of people who are less fortunate.
Why don't
None of it is going back to Liberia to help. Again, we have everything that we need. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have electricians, we have engineers, we have people who practice medicine. We have everything that we need in abundance here, and we just
You know what?
prostitute ourselves off to the highest bidder, and
Why don't
usually
I
they
read
win.
this. Speaking of your point, Emoja, I read this article, but it's back all the way from 1994. But just the statistics was just mind blowing, right? So the article was written in 1994. I know it was written in 1994. But it says more U.S. blacks favored going a separate way, and now of course they said 65% of Black Americans in their lifetime, and this was 1994, 65% of Black Americans also say that in their lifetime they will never have the same opportunity as white citizens. Now, this was only 1,200, 600 Black Americans randomly. This was randomly. So this is not even an organized. This is just 1,200 Black people that just randomly were selected. He says, there's another. He said 56 said that Blacks should participate in Black-only organizations. But this something that I read really captivated my mind. It says right here, 14% of Black Americans, and this is in 1994, 14% of Black Americans supported the idea of said that Black Americans should have their own nation. That was back in 1994. 14% of them said that we should have our own nation. This is, imagine if the BIO was there in 1994. Just like I'm just saying. Just imagine if we could just get that 14%. What could have happened? And then, like we said before, when you said we have all the examples through history, this happens, Umoja, every 30 to 50 years. There is a trend to this. Basically, every generation or every other generation, there is a black nationalism, black separatist movement. This is every generation. They bring this up, but I'm about to show you what I mean. We have Freetown, Sierra Leone, the oldest capital to be founded by Black Americans. That was in 1790, right? Monrovia is established in 1820, the 1822, which is next year. Okay, that's 32 years, right? The next major surge is in 1850. The next major surge is in the late 1870s, 1880s. The next major surge is in the 1920s. And then the next major surge is in the 1960s. This is every 30, 40 years. This keeps happening.
Holub has something to say, man. I hope you still got that on your brain, Holub.
No, I forgot what I was.
Well,
But it's all right. Go on.
Yeah, but that's the point. 13. This is happening a cycle every 30 to 40 years. Basically, every generation or two, we have this movement. This is not new. Like you said, the idea of having our own nation isn't new.
Something happened in the 60s, though. Something happened in the 60s. See, similar to how, like, when you think of the trauma, when somebody is going, like, hang on, let me phrase this right and not be so long-winded. White folks have been conjuring ways to keep us in the position that we're in. That's their job as quote unquote oppressors, right? So in the 60s, they figured that we kill these niggas and the other niggas are scared. They already figured that out in slavery. We kill the big one, the buck breaking, all that other stuff. So, but what they figured out is that we can pacify them enough. We're not going to be able to keep them from stop complaining. We're not going to keep them from stop complaining until we start showing them that there's some hope. So let's let them come in political office. Let's let them be sheriffs, deputies, secretaries, attorney generals and stuff like that, so we could always point to these tokens. Tokenism rose in the 60s and 70s, right, to high degrees. So now you don't see these revolutions. You see little factions, RGB factions.
The tokens rose as a response to black separatism. As more black people became nationalists and separatists, the need for, let's give more tokens or more concessions to, like you said, to pacify them so that this uprising or this black separatist nationalist thought process doesn't gain steam or become so big that we can't control it.
And it worked. And it worked.
Mm-hmm. And it worked. Happened in the 1920s. When we talk about Garvey, it happened in the 1920s. It happened in the 1940s to Mitima Lena Gordon. Both of their movements had millions of black people following them. But what do? You got to bring in what? A black FBI agent. You bring in a black person, a couple black people here and there. You get the NAACP at this time with W.E.B. Du Bois, although later he retracted it. But in this time, and then that creates this, hey, look, don't follow Garvey because, see, we got black professionals who are high up here. Also, that is, black professionals, don't you go near that man Garvey. He's dangerous. Notice that when Garvey got in contact with black professionals with nationhood and was sending delegations to Liberia, all of a sudden it became, he's the most dangerous black person. He's an idiot, making all these insults. And that's what the point that you were saying about, pacifying. And to go back onto, the subject of today's show, Liberia is the example of CRT, because the point of, you have legislation that's being passed to ban this from being taught. My response is, okay, why do we care? They're showing you every day they don't care or they don't want to hear it. So every day that they don't want to hear it, I'm like, listen, I'm ready to go back to Africa. I'm ready to go back to Liberia. That's my home anyways. I mean, that was founded by our ancestors anyway. I mean, like I said before, that's why it was created. I mean, to say that the U.S. wasn't funded is ludicrous. They had laws on the books where either you had to leave the country or leave the state or be sold into slavery. That's race. That's critical race theory right there in U.S. law. The fact that the government and you had Supreme Court justices, it wasn't just like the American Colonization Society was filled by a bunch of just rabidly racist, ain't nobody heard white people. This was Thomas Jefferson. This was James Madison. This was Francis Scott Key. This was John Marshall, a Supreme Court justice. This was Boothroyd Washington, George Washington's nephew. This was Andrew Jackson. This was Abraham Lincoln. These were all prominent people who supported the American Colonization Society's goal, which was the idea that black people are not going to be able to be assimilated in this country. They are telling you that the U.S. is fundamentally a white nation. They told you this. They did it through laws. They did it through, of course, with the ACS, although there were a plethora of black people who supported it and they used it as a means to get to where they wanted to be. But that's just the reality of the situation, and we need to accept that. I understand you want stuff to be taught about critical race theory, but here's my point about the history of it, right? Is that I like Liberian history in Liberia because you get to center it on your experience, and your people's experience. Mm-hmm. Liberia is literally our history culminated in nationhood. That's literally what it is. The one drop rule is culminated in Liberia, where you have presidents who were 1/8 black, 1/16 black, half black, fully pure African. You had were captives from Dahomey and Nigeria. You had people from the Caribbean come there, from Antigua and Barbuda. It's literally our history wrapped into one country, and yet we don't say, man, you know what? That country is literally a reflection of us. Wouldn't you want? I always tell people this. I want when I view an education system, the education system is supposed to give people awareness of what's going on in the globe, the overall idea of the past, and understanding their country's history and politics, right? But if you wanted to be centered on African American history, you would have to have your own country, hence Liberia, because our perspectives are not going to be the same. Black and white Americans, oftentimes, we don't have the same perspectives on foreign policy either, right? If we talk to the average white American, they did this, right? White Americans are constantly more anti-China than Black Americans are. Black Americans are probably the least anti-China group of people. Most Black Americans are not anti-China the way white Americans are. But if we go by what America says, we're supposed to be rabid anti-Chinese. No, we have different histories. We don't have that same connection or hatred with China. We have different history with that country. And so when you have your own nation, we can talk about it from our perspectives. Our relationship with China, our relationship with Turkmenistan, our relationship with Russia, our relationship with South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria. It allows for Black students to understand from their perspective and the history to be centered around them. Because even when I learned African, American history in my African American history class, it was to 1877. It really was very vague. Even it was still very vague.
I remember now.
Go ahead.
It was just an example of how childish we are. The last time I checked, the prison population in the U.S. was about 2 million. There's 2 million people in jail. Last time I checked, so approximately. Out of that 2 million, about 800,000 of them are Black people. black men and women. So almost half of the prison population is black. We think progress is the fact that we have black prison guards. That's an example of how childish we are in our thinking. We get to participate in our oppression. So therefore, we've made progress. The concept of ownership is off the table. If anybody can, and I said this multiple times, I want somebody to show me another forum where they're talking about us having our own nation, our own base of operations. Please post it in the chat. So people don't think that I'm just talking shit. Name another forum where they're talking about us having our own nation. And if you really want to get specific, name another forum where they're talking about us here in America for having that nation state be Liberia.
Facts. I was about to say this. You can't name not one forum that talks about Liberia in the depth that we do, except for focus on Liberia, and that's really it. You don't have other forums talking the way that we are, going in depth with actual theories, actual history, actual news that's relevant. You know, nobody's talking the way that we're doing.
Yep. Bottom line.
What I've come to notice is that as a whole, Black people seem to be very disinterested in having power over like anything, but over ourselves and over our own government. And that's kind of displayed when Jabari asked a question or made the statement about Black people not like disliking the China state more than Americans. And that's simply because Americans understand power. And when they see everything being made in China and China doing all this business and stuff, that is a direct attack on American power. But see, Black people just want to be in America and claim that we built it, but we don't care about having power in America. So we don't care what China is doing. Right. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah,
we don't care about having.
I would go even.
We don't care about power.
Yeah, we don't even know what power is.
I'll go even further.
Actually think
I don't even think it's that. I don't even think it's that. I think here's the biggest thing. A lot of some Black people, not many. Oh, well, I'll say many Black people don't understand what it means to craft out your own foreign policy. Like, that's the thing that we don't understand, right? But that comes with nationhood. It's the same thing with these scattered individuals. Nationhood, right? If we all claimed Liberia as our home and we all, said we're Liberian, whenever we go, we would know, okay, whoever's Liberian, that's who you meet up and you congregate with.
But Jabari, that's what he just said. That's the point. It's all right. It's best to put it like this. If you don't know anything about owning a building, what do you care about building codes? That's not even going to be, you're not even going to be thinking about that shit because all you care about is your apartment. The only way that you are going to think about power is if you have ownership. If you're not thinking ownership, you're all of this foreign policy, public policy, you don't give a shit about any of that. It's not even in your will. It's off of your radar. You got to first get yourself in a position where you're thinking of terms of power. And that's the reason why we can have these discussions, because we think in those terms. These critical race theory people, they're not even thinking about power. What they're thinking about is how can we, their reality is this: we're Americans, this is our homeland, this is where we belong. How can we get along with white people? That's their whole mindset. They're not even thinking about, like, the concept when we come start talking about, well, we can have our own, build our own roads and highways. We can have our own political, socioeconomic and political structure. It's like speaking Mandarin Chinese to them. Because in their minds, this is it. I've had it, like, I can send you clips on my show where I've had, well, not my show, I was on Mac's show. We having conversations. And they just dismiss it. Like when I say, oh, well, we need to have our own. Well, we know that that's not going to happen. So since we know that's not going to happen, da 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 da. I'm like, whoa. So you just threw that to the side.
Damn.
You just threw that to the side, like, oh, it's not going to happen. So let's talk about something else.
Oh, hold up. I have a better thing. I think this is another question that we should ask the militant integrationists when they ask for something in America. We need to ask, well, you said, well, since that ain't going to happen, we need to say, okay, you have a plan. Now tell us, how do we get there?
Oh
They
shit.
don't have a plan. That's the thing. They don't have a plan. They cannot. There's not one black militant integrationist or Black Power American that can tell me what their plan is
and how to do it.
Because
They can't tell you how to do it.
You can't even tell how because you ain't got one. They don't have a plan. What if they had a plan? The whole concept of asking what is the end game wouldn't even exist. There wouldn't be a reason to ask what the end game is if they had a concrete plan. They don't fucking know. The only thing they do know is this: they are Americans, which gets back to the point that I've been making for weeks. Forgive the white man. Why are you putting your people through all of this hell, trying to get them to embrace this vague blackness that nobody can identify, it's nothing tangible, nothing concrete. It's just this blackness that we aesthetically look a certain way. So we're gonna rally around that.
And when you go to any other country, nobody defines blackness in that terms as like a unifying factor.
Yeah, you're gonna rally around this vague abstraction.
Yep.
And then you're gonna think, and then you wonder why we can't do anything. We can't bust a grape because you don't have a fucking plan. And your plan is to argue against the people that have one. That's your plan.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing also that I also think is that they're lucky we don't have a huge microphone. If we had a huge microphone or we start to get one, we're going to be the dominant force, because it's simple. We only got like 734 subscribers, 735, but like 734. If we had 2,000 to 3,000, ours would slowly exponentially grow. Because as you get more exposure, because people ain't been exposed to us like that, the averagers ain't been exposed to the BIO, but people like vision. People don't like, you can talk and mumble all you want to, but at the end of the day, if you ain't got no vision, who gonna vote for you? Remember that phrase? You need to give me something to vote for. You need to give me something to, to get on your side. We got a bunch of giving, and the other side is getting a bunch of taking or a bunch of asking.
Got
I
a
think
question.
I have. Yeah. Then let's get to the question, please. I think that the most powerful tool to get straight through to it and to see who real and who's not is to simply ask whatever organization, whatever faction of militancy that you're in, what is the end game? Just simple as that. What is it? And if they don't understand what end game means, say, what is the goal? What goal are you trying to reach? What's going to happen once your mission is complete? And 9 times out of 10, they literally will mumble and stutter. Might even get mad at you. Like, what do you mean asking me what's the plan to this? Ain't no plan. Get your gun and march with us and shut up.
Is Mac?
It's really pathetic.
I think Mac is in the chat room, but Mac can tell you that question is the result of 30 years of bullshit. We have literally, and Mac can tell you, he's in the chat room. We've been thrown out of forums for asking that question because it gets to the core of the fucking problem.
Working hard as hell.
With the BAIO, the talking points of the BAIO didn't just come up out of thin fucking air. This has been field tested. These questions have been field tested. That you want to get thrown out of a militant integrationist or Black Power American forum. Ask 2 questions. First question is, what is the black agenda? That'll get you tossed out.
Be concrete about it. Be concrete and simple.
That'll get you thrown out. And what is the end game for black people in America? Ask those two questions, and they're going to escort your ass out of. They're going to first of all hem and haw around it, not really answer it, and then escort you out. And I know this for a fact because it's happened to me and Mac. Yeah, he co-signed it in the chat room. So this stuff is field tested. Nobody can say shit to us.
Hollop, he said, Hollop, I have a question for you. Would you agree that the 1619 Project by Nicole Hannah-Jones may be great writing, but is cumulative rehash of others' treatise on or expertise on racism? Therefore, it in critical race theory has no solutions.
Since I'm not a scholar, Baruti, I'm gonna put it in layman's terms. It's some militant integrationist, Black Power American bullshit.
And I'll say it in the nice way. I know Hollow likes to be very, blunt, but I'll just say it in the nice way. What Nicole Hannah-Jones said in her writing has already been iterated. Like that's the thing that like we're saying, like that frustrates us. What with critical race theory, we know U.S. law and racial power exists. We know that's the thing that we're trying to get to is not the fact that racism can't be taught. It's the fact we already know it is. We already know that slavery was central to the United States. We know this. There have been books, the slave community, I read about this, that went even further in depth in college. And the thing that people don't understand and getting this whip up about critical race theory is that critical race theory is taught in academia, like I said earlier, in academia and law. The average person, your elementary, middle, and high school are not going to learn about this. This shows you why we need to have our own, because we're literally having an irrelevant conversation on something that's not even taught in schools. And they're going out of the way to ban critical race theory in school, despite the fact that it's not even taught in school. Like, come on. Like, this is what we're dealing with. Like, am I lying? Do you hear kids in elementary school learning about slavery being the central key of the U.S. economy, and cotton was responsible for a majority of American exports in 1860? And did you not know that, during slavery, there were over 4.5 million black people, most of them being in the Deep South? Did you know that most, come on. Like, we have an irrelevant conversation on something that is just a buzzword. It's a buzzword. Okay? Critical race theory is the academic theory of systemic racism. What we would say systemic racism in U.S. law. It's literally the same thing. But as this pertains to Liberia, and what we're doing is, if you are on this anti-critical race theory, since you want to bring it up, some people want to bring it up, you say that, okay, the U.S. is fundamental. You said the U.S. is not fundamentally racist; it just has flaws. Liberia literally debunks everything that you're talking about. Literally, you say America wasn't racist. I literally went over it a little bit earlier. You were so racist. You said, listen, black people need to have their own country. We two separate nations. That's not us saying it. That's what your founders say. Your founders said, listen, we want you guys gone. We don't want you here. We're two separate countries.
Let me interject with something that I think is an important piece of this whole conversation about critical race theory. It continues to put focus on them instead of us. Forget them.
Oh,
like anybody who knows anything about racism in America knows that there's racism in America, knows that it's a foundation of America. And if they can't even agree to start there, I don't even want to talk to them anyway. However, though, in terms of like on a mass level, critical race theory continues to put the onus on black progress on white folks, man. And that's not what it is now. Because once again, we have everything we need to do it ourselves. And the one thing, like even before I joined the BIO a few years ago, I would like locally, I would say, no, y'all, we need to do this ourselves. And then if the people don't do it, then they just don't want it. And then if we do it and then we get the opposition, then we'll know that we don't have any friends and we have to do it ourselves. And I think that's why to do it right here, people don't really want to do nothing that's effective right here because they know that they'll get met. Something like, let's have an all black political party. Well, but it'll fail. We have to stay with Democrat and all this other stuff. Well, if it'll fail, then I will show you that they don't care about you. So how about we just leave this place? So that's why they can't come together and do none of the do it right here stuff, because once it's trampled upon, then they're stuck with just saying, well, I guess I just got to keep on bending over and taking this, you know? So
They
the
can't
only
even support the one black bank that they have. They can't even support that.
exactly. We just can't keep on putting everything on white folks. It's not about them anymore. It's not about them anymore.
Yeah.
We have to get that clear.
Yeah.
It's not about them anymore. It's on us. We have what we need to do. It. We can get an airplane ticket tomorrow, y'all, just to visit and go look at the landscape. We can start putting our money up and instead of buying Jordans and everything else. We can do that. We can do that. We really can. We could plan a future for our kids without white people's permission. I promise.
Yeah, how about having our own schools? That's a solution to critical race theory.
Bam. Bam. How about that? Let's do that right here.
And my thing about it, even when we talk about, like I said before, Liberia just explains everything. Like we don't like all we got to say. Listen, Liberia, hey yo, Liberia, come here. And anytime the U.S. says, anytime the U.S. says anything, oh, we're not a racist country. Liberia says, then how did I get here? How did I get here? That's all. That's all you. All we have. All Liberia has to do is just be there, and it debunks everything about U.S. not being a racist country because we got all the evidence. It was like, even though, like I said,
is there anybody else in the queue?
It's like even with critical race theory, right? When they were talking about, oh, well, why are you teaching my kids Christopher Columbus is being evil? I didn't teach your kids nothing. Your child just read his diary. Like that's literally what we're doing right now. You can say you're not a racist country, but we got Liberia right here. We read what their stances were on colonization in Liberia and us going back to Africa. We don't gotta say anything.
Is there anybody else in the queue?
Like we said, it's not our responsibility to fix this country or its racism problem. Like I said earlier with the Afghanistan situation, we didn't start this racism crap. So going to Africa is a better alternative to the situation we are in. Said it earlier. Thank you for just reinstating what I said. Thank you so much, Fly Guy. White Americans have to do that on their own. That is not our responsibility. It's not our responsibility.
Yo, Jabari.
Yeah.
Is there anyone in the queue?
Yeah, there was it was Fly Guy. That was it.
Oh, he's in the queue?
Oh. Oh no, nobody's in the queue, my bad. I don't know what I was thinking. I was looking at something else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just I don't understand. And here's and speaking on what your thing is, right? That just I find just to talk about critical race theory with Liberia when they talk about the Americo-Liberians, we can go into that too. That influenced that too. Like people forget about that. Like people act like, oh, well, see, this is why we shouldn't go back because see, Liberia was an example of the white man's mentality. Then that's critical race theory in its works, right? The U.S. is a fundamentally racist country, and you internalize aspects of that racism, and you brought it with you. Same thing in Africa. You have internalized colorism, right? Where people think lighter skinned Africans are better than darker skinned Africans. But is that our fault? We didn't create colorism. We didn't create racism. So you're basically asking us to take responsibility for a system we didn't create. Okay, people are like, you would think, well, since she was like, well, since they think they were slaves, that they wouldn't mistreat. Listen, honey, that's not how things work. Like, I'm tired of this, like I said, this idealism. Okay. The reality of the situation is okay, we leave this country and we go back to another land. The situation is completely different. We are in a completely different landscape. How we operate is going to be completely different. That's like saying right now, peace, Richard Diction. That's like saying, holla. If you pull up to Rwanda, are you going to navigate Rwanda in the same situation as you was in America?
Nope. And I bet you Rwanda doesn't need critical race theory.
I like what you said in the chat, Holla. Like, we not here to fix America's problems. That's the reason why America wants us to stay here. Like, maybe in the 19th century, America was like, all right, these niggas gotta go. We didn't got what we needed out of them. Now they can go. But now with the entertainment value, just the entertainment value that they get from us, like the value, the money that they get off us in entertainment across the entertainment spectrum is massive. They will lose so much money if we were
to take hold on a second. If we were to take our entertainment and our athletes alone, I'm not even talking about the other field, just the entertainment and the athletes alone, and let's say just place them, transport them, Star Trek transport them into Liberia. What do you think will happen in this fucking country?
It'd be boring. But I'll go even further. Umoja. America wants us here to stay because they want Black Americans to do the work of fixing America's problems. How many times have we heard Black people saved America? 2020, Black people saved America. 2018, Black people saved America. Black women saved
my favorite? You know what my favorite is, Jabari? Black people are the conscience of America.
Oh,
I love that one.
Yo guys tripping, man.
Like that's why they want us here. They want us to save them from themselves. That's what it is. Because when we're here, we have to try to save them from the potential catastrophe that some of their in-group people do. But see, once we leave America, now it's up to white Americans to decide what they truly value and what they truly want. It's up to them. We got no part of it. And so that's why, to answer Umoja's point, I think it's important for them to stay because it gives this illusion that America is a fair, hopeful society. But if Black folks simply gave up, it's going to crumble that entire worldview. Because now they're actually like, wait a minute. Like, this ain't no, like, joke. Like, they're actually, like, leaving and, like, they're actually going to be working with countries that we don't like and they don't care about what we think. And then the fact that we're in Liberia, they now have to reconcile with Liberia. Because now your history is for the entire world to see. Now, we know with the George Floyd situation and all that stuff, the world saw what happened with America. But America can afford to say, well, we're doing some things. Well, we are making progress. Well, we have this Black, ambassador who can say, listen, in America, unlike in some other countries, we talk about it. And, we have discussions about it. With Liberia, they can't say nothing because we can instantly refute that and say, we, the African American government in Liberia, have come to the conclusion and have done reporting that says that the United States has not met the standards that we want as it pertains to the diaspora communities living in America. America can't hide no more. You can't hide no more because you have to now see us on the international stage as our own separate entity. So every time you look at Liberia and you see us at the world stage, it reminds you of your country being fundamentally racist. And that's how critical race theory and the U.S. being systemically racist affects Liberia and how they relate. Because you can't run from it anymore. And every day you see us, also every time you see that Liberian flag, it can remind you that we really didn't care about black people, that our country had no interest in it, that our founders were indeed racist people.
Mm-mm-mm. We got Baruti in the chat. He said most Muzungu people probably would like to keep the 25% of blacks who are capable of making money, and the rest they feel are useless and can go.
I don't give a shit what they think.
And also, the assumption they're making is that those 25% of black people are going to stay. Even those who make money, like Stevie Wonder and stuff, they'll leave too. Like, that
I
there are
don't give.
athletes. I mean, there was a mayor in Mississippi that got up and moved to Tanzania. I mean, they can't control who leave.
I don't give a shit about what white people want, what they feel, what they think, their opinions. I don't fucking care. Because like Emo just said, it's not about them right now. It's about us. What the fuck are we going to do?
Period.
Like I
Period.
said, everybody's agenda at the beginning of the NFL is to win the Super Bowl. Only one team wins it.
The 1619 Project showed me black people in the minds of the British, Americans, and Spanish were powerful proxy tools of war and whipping boys. Yeah, like we don't talk about that, how like with the British were using us, basically saying if you fight for the British Empire, I haven't considered it yet, but I might consider going on to the advisor. I might email him. I might do that because I think.
Oh, you must have a tremendous amount of patience.
Oh, I do.
Because I don't.
Like I said, I'm the diplomat. Like I tell people, I'm the diplomat. I like to respect people, even though I did like disagree. I'm very kind. I'm very generous. That's me, and that's what you need. But this is the point of organizing and having, so the people that you have, so that people can be diverted to specific issues. For example, Hollip is not the person who's going to be the one who's willing to be patient or be willing to say stuff in a kind, polite term, or say stuff, or willing to have that sort of conversation. I'm that person. I know Mojang. I don't know about Rated Mind, but that's the point of organization. Is you need different people to deal with different issues. I need a marketing person, a social media person. So hey, I'm not good with social media. I'm not good with marketing. But hey, I know a brother who is good at marketing.
Right.
That's the point. And most importantly, I'm more optimistic. I'm not pessimistic. I don't believe that we can't do what we want to do. I think one, it has to be timing. I think that's one of the things that we have to be aware about too, is timing. Because of course, the 1850s, 1880s, those came during times of tremendous stress. So I think we also need to understand the importance of timing and how current events shape that. And I just believe with the right amount, like the right strategy, I think we can do it. Like I said, I'm optimistic. I know other people are pessimistic, but I'm optimistic, and that's what you need. He says, panelists, I have a question for you. Do you believe that Liberians in the U.S. believe that they experience progress hindering racism at the level of the average African Americans? If not, why? So my personal opinion is Liberians do experience racism, especially if you go to Minnesota. Minneapolis has one of the largest Liberian populations in America, and of course, it has one of the most racial laws. But the benefit of living in Liberia, even for Liberians who come to America, is you lived in an all-black society when you chose to come here, or you left because of a refugee thing. So your whole mindset is different.
Why did they leave?
Because of the war. Because they left during remember the Civil War? A lot of these people came as a result of the Civil War that happened in the 1990s, early 2000s. That's why they're here.
Okay.
If it wasn't for the coup d'etat and the civil war, most Liberians wouldn't have left. They left because of the war. Okay, so their viewpoint may be, hey, I'm living a good life here. It's better than when I left when the war happened. That's what they're thinking. We have to be aware of that too. But Liberians do experience racism. So it depends. Are they U.S. born or are they like just immigrated here? Because U.S. born Africans tend to think more like African Americans than African born Americans. It's the same thing on with a quick thing. Another nation, another group of people, Asian Americans. Asian Americans who were born in America are more likely to be willing to not tolerate racism than Asian-born Asian Americans. So that we have to factor that in with the Liberians. But I'll let Richard says most of us want to assimilate, we want our own, but a lot of our most productive members are just as brainwashed. I don't think that's true. I just think that you have to give the right, like I said, we in the BIO, we've never had the chance to lay out our agenda, lay out our plan, lay out everything to the average black masses. Okay, that's how I
agree.
look at things. I look
I
at
happen
things
to
like
agree with I happen to agree with Richard Dixon.
I don't. I
Absolutely. Just
disagree.
like let me give you that's fine, but let me give you an example of how I think you actually do agree, whether you know it or not. When you said that most American born Africans, like if they're first generation African born in American, like both of their parents came from Liberia and they was born in American, they tend to think more like African Americans. That's because America's propaganda system there's none other. If you look at you can go across cultures, you'll see a Mexican that was born and raised in America, how Americanized they are. You see an Asian born in America, you'll see how Americanized they are. They even fight with their parents sometimes. They might even date a black dude. You know what I'm saying? A Cambodian woman would be with a black dude and their dad fucking hates it because they dad know that black people aren't treated well. So I think the propaganda that westernized culture has is vicious. Like how can you say that you don't agree when we could talk about people who say I'm going to Florence, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna black sit to Florence, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna black sit to Mexico. So what if Americans dying there? Like I absolutely believe that the propaganda machine that is America absolutely brainwashes. If we wasn't if we wasn't
Okay, the
walking around like
propaganda. I
zombies,
understand, bro.
if we wasn't walking around like zombies, we wouldn't have to be talking for 2 hours about this stuff. We would already be like so far ahead in our plans if people wasn't so brainwashed. It's absolutely a brainwashing job. For sure. For sure, for sure.
He says, I'm pessimistic about our people here, but optimistic about the few of us that will help to make great change in productive African nations. Same thing. Um, Baruti, he said, this is how the U.S. keeps dominance, destabilize a country or draw from weak countries. Then you make sure to draw off enough foreign elite and middle class to bolster U.S. STEM. That is absolutely, true. He says, I'm a Liberian brother watching from Sweden. There's nowhere you can call home than Liberia. And we 100% agree with that.
Yeah, just to clarify, Harold George made that statement to Baruti.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm positive for where we're going. And my thing about it, and like what Umoja is saying about focusing on your own, and focusing and centering yourself. I think that is important, and I think, well, it is important. I'm not gonna say I think that it is important because we need to stop thinking as if it's wrong to look at your own interests and think we have to do what's best for us. And if this relationship is not working or we're not seeing the progress that we like, it's time for us to say, you know what, we're heading to Liberia, and we're going to get citizenship with the Liberian government. We're going to be doing projects in Liberia, and saying, you know what, it's time for us to connect. It's like what Hala said, it's time for us to give Liberia a second go, and go to the full capabilities, that's what we have to start thinking. We can't look at things like, oh, well, America wants us to do this or we have to do that. We have to think of things from the perspective of what do we want. I've learned that I became less stressed, and you know this personally. We all can relate to this personally as individuals. When you focus on yourself instead of focusing on what other people think, you move through life better, and you are able to focus more on your goals when you focus on what you want and your interests instead of focusing on what everybody else wants you to do. And that's the
Now
same.
you preaching. Go
That's
on
the
here, boy.
that's the
Go
same
ahead.
thing we have to apply. When we talk about us as a group, focus on what we want. Do you want to deal with this racism? No, I don't want to deal with this racism. Do you
Dude,
want somewhere on the continent of Africa that you can call home?
let me speak
Yes.
to that real quick. Let me speak to that real quick, Jabbar, because what you said really, really triggered me in a positive way. Man, it is such a freeing feeling not to give a damn about what's going on here, y'all. Like I promise you, because if you on this line, most of us here really care about black people. This isn't an individualist kind of movement, right? So if you really care about black people, then you see everything that happens to black people in America, and it could literally drive you crazy. It could literally drive you to depression. It could literally drive you up the walls. Like, and I don't mean figuratively, I mean you could literally be going crazy, especially when you see that no one's really doing anything about it and our condition seems to be getting worse. However, when you flip that switch and say, you know what, I'm going to focus on Africa, and I'm going to focus on the people who wants to focus on that, because I believe that we're going to build a future that our people could prosper in, whether they want it or not. Right now, the people who do want it, there is no freer feeling than to know that you actually working for something, know that you putting money aside to make Africa trips. Like what? Like seriously, y'all, like it is nothing like it. And when you completely disengage from the BS here, when you could look at something in the news and be like, well, I know that we talked about that last year. Like, and it is such a freeing feeling. Talk about being free. For real, for real. Get on board, y'all. Get on board and leave this rat race in America alone, because it's going nowhere. It is going nowhere.
Yeah.
Underrated mind.
Yeah, underrated, man.
I mean, y'all pretty much said everything. I can't can't expound on it any further.
Yeah. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead, brother. Say your piece. We know you got that a snippet of underrated thought for us.
Yeah, I mean, just what I've talked about Thursday, power behind the power. Folks need to stop focusing on what's up front, or what they're seeing as if like, oh, okay, we just need to get to that level and that's it. But it's beyond that. It's bigger than that. It's a lot of things that we don't see on a daily basis, and it's also just in the form of ownership. So that's what I thought about creating the thought of the power behind the power. Having the ownership to create these kind of opportunities, controlling the narrative, versus just, oh, we got to build this up and we need to talk about African history in order to make a change. So,
And I'm going to say something lastly, because I know time wise, I know some of y'all may have to go or stuff like that. But for the next 10 minutes, I just really want to just elaborate, about, even with taking care of ourselves in Liberia. And, I know people like to use Liberia as a whipping boy and saying this is an example of, what went wrong. And you see, we tried it once and this is what happened. But my thing about it is that there is a such thing as effort. There is a such thing. The reason why I say this because I keep bringing this up when talking about Liberia. Only 14 to 20,000 went there, less than 0.01%. You're basing African Americans off of the 0.01% that had the opportunity to go. And we're not even factoring the people that were in that group. the people that did the good, and when you focus on yourself, like you said, when you focus on yourself, then you correct what is wrong. I think that's the problem. We don't want to correct our problems because we view our problems, when you blame everything on the white man, or like I said, treat the white man like it's Thanos, you don't see your own problems or your own issues as your own issues to solve. You view them as white people's issues to solve or other people's issue to solve. But when you look at it from your own interest and your own perspective, it starts to make you think, I can do something. This is something that I can do, something that I can contribute. And that's what I look at when I see Liberia. I see our story, and I see, that 100% effort was not given in. Like, we have to understand, like, we also have to tell that point, and also goes into Underrated Mind, bringing up controlling the narrative, and the power behind the power is that we never had the chance to give 100%. So, when you have that chance to give 100%, then we can see what Liberia actually is. So why not give it another opportunity, another chance, and this time go 100%? Because I know one of the things that African Americans got to understand, us as Black people, and this is what racism has done to us as a people. We view any negative experience as a disqualifier. We view anything that the Nigerians did with slavery as a disqualifier. We view anything because we have to be perfect. Our history has to be squeaky clean, got to be perfect. That's not going to happen. Okay? So stop focusing on it being perfect, because you're not perfect. Nothing is perfect. Nobody's history is perfect. But I look at it like they did something for us. They set something up. And now, am I going to give my 100%, or am I going to quit and use that as, this happened once, so it's bound to happen again?
Jabari, let me just interject on what you said, because that's one of the lamest stalling tactics, to talk about whatever African country had their hands in the transatlantic slavery. All you have to do is say, but sir, you're living in a country with the people who have 100%, 100% accountability on your slavery, and you are just fine with that. But when it comes to Africa, you want to pick a little minute point and be like, nope, that's why I can't go there. But you will live amongst the people who literally had the whole. Oh, hold on, my dang kid's acting crazy. I hope y'all got that point.
Yeah, we got that point. And also,
let me just say
ahead,
something in regards to that. When they came up with the concept of enslaving Africans for free labor here in America, there were no Africans at the meeting.
I was about to say the same thing. Africans didn't decide how we were treated when we got here. Like, that's one of the things we forget. Like, Africans had no control with how we were treated when we got here. So, and also when we talk about that, it's funny because we don't talk about, although they were minute, there were some African Americans who owned other African Americans as their slaves. Although it was minute, there were some that did do it. We don't want to bring that up. We want to bring up, the comfortability, the fact that Denmark, Vesey, and many Black people were sabotaged, that there were slaves who were comfortable being their master's whipping boy. We don't want to talk about that ugly history. We don't want to talk about many of our Black leaders holding sexist and colorist remarks. We don't want to say that. But for some reason, when it's Liberia or when it's Africa, we are quick to bring up their atrocities, and quick to bring up, oh, y'all did this to us. Okay, y'all did this. But we never think, you know what? Why don't we talk about our leaders and what they've done and what they've contributed? Because it's like somebody said, it's always easy to look at stuff from the outside. It's way harder to look within yourself and see what you did wrong.
Facts.
Yep. shoot, we could talk about how we build things in the past, but we don't want to talk about that. We got our own damn nation.
Yeah, another thing
Go ahead.
about that point that about the using Liberia as a reason to not pursue nationhood anymore, then you better not pursue sports anymore when your team loses.
Uh-oh.
It's like I said, we understand the concept perfect if you put it in those terms, but then it becomes a different thing when it comes to nationhood. If your team did not win the championship, you don't tear down the stadium and quit playing the game because y'all didn't win that year. What you do is you regroup, you figure out how you can get better until you eventually win. When you start, most people don't have a successful business when they first start. There's a lot of failures. Some people don't get a successful business until maybe their fourth try.
Mm-hmm.
So we can understand the concept when it comes to every fucking thing else except nationhood. With nationhood, it's one and done. Well, we tried that. That's it for nationhood. That's it. That's it for socioeconomic and political power. Like, wow, that was fucked up. Let's do something else.
It's funny because I want y'all to talk about when we claim Egypt or we claim other, civilizations. Let's say we built the pyramids in Egypt and we talk about Nubia. We can talk about Egypt, Nubia, and Accent. Can we talk about their atrocities too? Oh, was I not supposed to bring that up? Was I not supposed to bring up, how the fact that, when Egypt, went into Nubia, they told the Nubians, you got to convert to our religion. Nobody want to bring that up. It's real easy to glorify and romanticize instead of being a reality with these kingdoms. Like one African historian said, we got to stop romanticizing our ancient history. Our ancient history was not as rosy as what we think it was. Mansa Musa was one of the richest men, but he was also a brutal leader. Like we have to stop pretending, and it's okay. It's okay that they were not perfect. It's okay. Yes, we understood that our ancestors sold slaves and did that. We understood that many of our ancient kingdoms were waging war against each other and killing innocent civilians, killing members. It's okay. That's part of history. It's okay. It's okay to learn that. It's okay to acknowledge that. And like Rule of Two said, you can fail 20 times. You keep trying. You don't give up. You don't say to your people, especially if you don't know or you didn't give your 100%, to quit. Because what did Michael Jordan say? What did Michael Jordan say? That everybody knows Michael Jordan, but what's that infamous quote that Michael Jordan said? It's one thing to fail. It's a whole nother thing to not even try. You're not even trying. Our ancestors tried and it didn't work to the fullest potential, resulting in the 1980 coup. But they tried. They tried to fix things. They tried.
And how many of them? How many of them tried? How many? What was the number? Jabari, you said it was 14?
Yeah, those 14,000 tried.
Now that's 14,000 were able to create a nation that lasted for how long?
It's still going. It still exists.
No, I'm talking about before the coup.
Oh, 100. Well, they arrived in 1822. 163 years.
163 years with 14,000 of our demographic. How many people we have here now?
47 million. Yeah, 47 million. If you don't include African immigrants, like 42 million.
Right. And that's not enough for a second season?
And also, you
don't think you're gonna win this season?
Right.
Wow.
And speaking of, well, is that? Hold on, let me correct. It's 100. It's 100. It's 158 exactly. I'll let you get my math on 158, but it's around that 158, 160 years. But even then, years. People forget. Even when we talk about trying, there were over 100. Like I said, with these numbers, 160,000 that tried to get there but couldn't. Okay. There were 98,000 exodusters who signed a petition to want to go to Liberia. We did what we did with the most minuscule amount of people that were able to go, and we were able to build something that happened. I want, like she said, second season, and I want to be able to go 100%. I want everybody who can and who want to come. And we can do that this time to where our ancestors were not able to do. So don't come to me and say, well, our ancestors, they failed for this time. They tried. And they tried to change things. They tried. They didn't just stay in this minute thing and it was that way forever. They tried to change.
And like you said, it's still there. It's still there. They did all the work. They did all the work for you. It's still there.
And
I think we deserve a second season.
And the people still love you. And the people still love you. The people don't hate you.
A second season of Land Infrastructure Nationhood. Don't you think? Don't you think we deserve a second season?
And Richard Redbow can tell you they don't hate you. We've had Liberians tell us this. They don't hate us. They love us. So why are we acting like there's this unnecessary hatred or this irrational hatred that's not there? It's not there.
Do y'all think we deserve a second season?
Yes.
What's that? Or
should we throw away the uniforms, tear down the stadium, forget about Land Infrastructure Nationhood? It was nice. We tried it that one time with like 14,000 people out of 47 million.
What's that church song? This is my season for grace.
We deserve it. And our people, we deserve it. And we are owed it. Like Five Guys said, yes. And we should be proud of it.
You don't stop trying until you succeed. We understand that concept with every goddamn thing except when it comes to nationhood. In sports, in training, in anything that you do, you go to the gym, you keep 250 bench press. Do you stop bench pressing? You keep bench pressing until you eventually can lift it. It's really fucking simple, people. The only people that you got to stop listening to is mouth breathing morons like these black talking heads who can't bust a grape here in America. They can't even establish a national fund here in America that black people can pool their resources together. They can't even establish that. That's how incompetent they are. Yeah. Like I said, our only problem is our microphone ain't big enough. Because if people were listening, if 10,000 people were listening to this thing today, could you imagine how many signups we have?
Oh, man.
But that's the problem.
There are, but like I said, we have a hidden, like you said, we are the hidden gem. All we got to do is just get the mic and everything's coming in.
Because the rest of these people is selling you garbage.
And that's the sick part about it. They legit selling stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want no money. No money. Not at all. I repeat, we don't want any of your money. We want you, fool. We want your skills, your expertise. We want your heart. You know what I'm saying? Straight up though, because people really don't believe it. But they'll sign up for this thing and that thing, get all these subscriptions and prescriptions for $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, even sometimes $30, $40, $50 a month. But then somebody say, we just want to really build something for our future. And it costs you nothing except your time and some of your energy and some of your real life belief. That's it. Not a damn sense. Matter of fact, save your money. So when it's time to go and visit the continent, we go as a big group. That's what we want you to do with your money.
There you go.
Damn. It's crazy, man. It's really crazy.
I mean, the only subscription we got is just for you to sign up the website, and that's free.
Free. We don't have any GoFundMe accounts.
Not a free trial.
We don't have any Patreons. We don't have any of that shit. It's free, nigga.
I want to repeat. We want you to save your money so that you could take a trip to the continent with us, so we can see that it's real, that we can go there and not get killed. We can go there and not be robbed. There's no spooky people coming to get us. Save your money. Let's go to the continent. How about that?
Yeah, they worried about safety. I wonder if what's his name, George Floyd, would be alive if he wasn't in this country.
Mm.
How come we don't think of safety from that perspective? We sitting up here getting killed left and right. Nobody thinks about our
Holla,
safety here in America.
holla, holla. This is why that whole argument is so crap. Let's be real. In the very state, sometimes even city that everybody on this call in, there's places that they will not go. Whether it's gang violence, whether it's surrounded by hillbillies, there's places exactly where you live right now in America that you would not go because you don't want to deal with some BS or it's legit not safe. Let's be real. So y'all
Exactly.
people could cut the crap with that safety in Africa stuff when you living in the place. I know there's places in my surrounding area I am not going ever. I'm never gonna go to Idaho, y'all. I'm never gonna go to Montana. Why? I'm never gonna go to deep Texas. Why? I'm
Oh,
never gonna go
yeah,
to
I'm
some of
about
these
to
places.
say.
Where the
Not
gas
doing it.
stations are spread 300 miles apart.
Not gonna be able to do it. I am not
Mississippi,
gonna be
some
able to
parts of
do it.
Mississippi, some parts of Alabama. Like, come on, we know this.
We'll talk about Africa when you're surrounded by all black people. We talking about safety. It's just disgusting. We
Need to get my tranquilizer.
They
Yeah,
literally have gas stations in America spread 300 miles apart to make sure that you break down or run out of gas in between trips so they can get your ass. It ain't no accident.
Mm.
And you worried about safety in Africa? Like I said, we was in Rwanda at 3-4 o'clock in the morning with the Rwandan people walking through the streets, having fun. Nobody was giving us mean looks. I didn't get one mean look when I was in Rwanda. Nobody ice grilled me. None. Nobody ice grilled me. And there were some big dudes there. So save that shit for somebody that hasn't actually traveled.
Yeah, just
And that's another thing. I want to address this too.
Yeah.
Can our people please stop it with this Han Solo shit? You ain't even got Chewie with you, and you going to the continent. Like, what is the problem with doing a little bit of research? What is the problem with getting some people who have boots on the ground? Hey, here's a radical thought. How about joining the BIO? Where you can actually talk to people who are in the country that you're thinking about going to. There's a thought. Nobody thinks to do that. They don't get involved in any networks. They don't get involved with anybody that's boots on the ground. They don't surround themselves with people who are informed. Maybe when you get there, you can meet with somebody and they can show you the lay of the land. Instead of just going out there by yourself, thinking this shit is one way because you did absolutely no research. Then you get hit with the cold, harsh reality that you don't really have no support system out there. And then you end up disillusioned, and then after you get disillusioned, now you come back and now you anti repatriation now.
Yeah, and here's the thing also about support system, like what people don't understand about that. Let's say you were in Nigeria. Let's say you were in Nigeria, South Africa. What happens if something happens to you? Who do you call? What services are there that I might need? How long do these services take? If I have somebody who's been there, they'll tell me, hey, Jabari, you don't need to go to this area at this time. Or there is a situation that's been going on here for the last couple months. Just be aware that the students or the student group is doing this or this political group is doing that because they want to address the grievances that are happening. So I know how to navigate the situation. And I know whether or not I need to stay out of this situation. Do I need to get involved? How can I help these people? That's the point of having a network and boots on the ground. It's supposed to make it easier for you. You're supposed to make the transition easier for people. You're not supposed to make the transition hard. That was one of the very first things when I went to go study abroad that my dad did. He made sure that we had a boots on the ground person that we could stay with. And they were able to bring me to the university, and then the university students that I already knew that were South African, they were able to help me navigate to get to other friends. And so I was able to move to where now I could pull up in South Africa right now, call one of my buddies and say, hey, yo, I'm about to be in town. Where can you help me? Where can I go? That's how it's supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be alone
And let me give you another example. Belle Thanos, I was speaking with her the other day, and she was talking about you have a lot of people online selling real estate in Rwanda. But what they don't tell you is you end up buying a property in Rwanda and you won't be able to do certain things because of the zoning. They fail to leave that out. It's like, oh, just get this property for this amount of money. And then how about learning from the people that are actually there? They can prevent a lot of this bullshit from happening to you if you would just sign up to the goddamn website, communicate with the people that's on the ground. Because we have people on the ground in Rwanda. We have people on the ground in Ghana. We have people on the ground just about every country you can think of that people are thinking to go to. Why would you not want to communicate with somebody that could possibly help you on your repatriation? And there's no charge for it. Nobody's hitting you in the pockets to do it.
But part of the brainwashing is that of American individualism.
Yeah.
Our fallback is that we got to do it ourselves. We got to do it ourselves. We got to do it ourselves.
Even Han Solo had Chewie.
That Han Solo syndrome. I said that to a group of people. Holla, man, I got so many laughs. I was being serious, but they was laughing because they ain't never heard that, right? The Han Solo syndrome. For real, it's like we always got to do it by ourselves, and then we come running with our tails tucked. Because why? Because we alone. Alone is never good, man. Alone is never good.
And speaking of the zoning laws, right? It goes even further. Okay, let's say you have a family. Do they know how the education system works? Do they know how your students will be assessed and graded? Do they know where they're going to be studying university, and how do their grades from the U.S. transfer over to the students' education system? Do you have African Americans who are in that country who can tell the education, system directors or, the administrators, hey, yo, we got students coming here from America. We need you to allow them to have a pathway so that they can graduate with these classmates of their year. That's what you have to think about. You have to think about, how am I going to survive? Not only how am I to survive, but how do I do this in a legal and appropriate manner? You can buy up all of this property that you want, but you need people who are plumbers, who are construction workers, who are architects, who are surveyors, who can actually tell you, this is what happens when you buy this territory. This is a low risk this is the low risk. There's low risk of flooding. There's low risk of this. This is the stuff that you have to have. And like Love and Nigel just told us, I have a support system here. So she knows she can get. She knows she can get somewhere. She has somewhere where she can navigate.
And she's also in the BAIO, so she's a source of information for people. What country is she in?
Nigeria. She's in Nigeria.
So she's a source of information. If you're thinking about repatriating to Nigeria, how about join the BAIO website and you can communicate with her?
I'm talking about invaluable though. I don't want to take her resources lightly. Like when I was asking questions and the thing about it is though, is that a lot of places are the same in terms of getting there, how to find the embassy, how to get a visa, whether you need a visa before arrival or if they're open up to American passports where you could just come and pay for the visa upon arrival. Like she has a lot of knowledge about that stuff, y'all. Like seriously, and that's the thing, like we don't see that as possible. We just don't see a lot of stuff as possible because we don't see people doing it, but it's very possible, man. It's very possible.
Yeah, this stuff is easy, man. It really is. It's really easy. What makes it hard is people make shit out to be more difficult than it actually is. You still have people that will listen to us and not sign up to the website because they just can't comprehend that it's really that easy.
Sitting up there nodding their head, talk about Amin Ra and everything else, and peace, love, and light, niggas. Ain't never seen them.
Yep. Still can't sign up, can't be amongst people, and planning on going to the continent, and still don't want to talk to nobody. So when you come back with your tail between your legs, who do you have to blame except yourself? And don't be all anti-African now. But anyway, I think we've beaten this dead horse.
Yeah, about an hour and 14 minutes over.
Yeah, we done kicked this horse in the ass.
And so make sure, I understand, but we just giving out the information. You got to give people the information. That's just what it is, and that's what we're here for. He says if you go to Liberia for 2 weeks, you will want to stay for a month. Hey, we're gonna be enjoying our 2 weeks when we get there. But make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that you sign up to the website boafricstan.org/register. Make sure that you when you sign up that you tell us that you sign up so that way you can get part of the lounge, because we be having great conversations out the lounge, productive conversations out the lounge. We don't have meaningless conversations. We have productive, meaningful conversations on the lounge coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern. I know that's also during the game when the Bucks play. Just a side note. But yeah, I'm also going to be doing more BIL news. I haven't taken it. I've been taking a couple of days off. I'll try to get more videos in, definitely. But yeah, this was a great discussion. This was needed to be had.
Yep. On that note too, for underrated thought, I know I missed last week, but I'm back on it. And not for this Sunday, but the next Sunday on the lounge, I'm going to bring up a topic that I've been writing for quite some time called the Nationhood Man. And stay tuned for that next Sunday.
Cool.
All right, fam.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.
I'll see y'all tonight.
Peace.
Bye, y'all. Peace.